What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate, reverse rant, no hate. So, Canelo, Caleb Plant in the books. It was a good fight. Truthfully, Caleb held his own for as long as he could. He was doing it. The first maybe 4 or 5 rounds, that was his better rounds. Canelo said he think like the first 4 rounds would be the toughest, the earlier rounds. And pretty much when Caleb is busy is when he's at his best. Canelo, being capable of taking advantage of the things that other fighters weren't able to take advantage of. Like when Caleb gets tired, when he slows down, pretty much, we all, figured he's going to have to, for 12 rounds, be to a point where his condition needs to be where he can actually just execute all night. And that's easier said than done. Even when the fighter's in great shape, they can go against certain fighters where it's like, nah, you need to be in even better shape, So, what Caleb, he held his own. It wasn't no whitewash like people was thinking it was going to be. People was, he going to knock him out 1 or 2 rounds. Said, nah, these guys are sleeping on Caleb. Caleb Plant, yeah, he did what he had to do. He did the best he could do, But again, this is what we need. I'm not about people talking me to death about who's going to win. We can all have our opinions. But when people make comments like, what's the purpose of even fighting, giving this guy a fight? Well, he was the IBF champion. And he wanted to unify, and Canelo wanted to unify. So what do you mean? There's nobody who people actually think from pretty much, whatever weight classes Canelo can make. People feel like he'll beat anybody he fight. So why even make comments like, why get this guy to fight? Well, if not him, then who? You guys think he'll beat the Charlos. You think he'll beat everybody. So, he has to fight someone. Now, that's just ignorant comments, really, that we could just overlook anyway. But, people love to just say things like that. They love to try to shoot another fighter down when they're fighting a guy that they like. And the thing is, if Caleb was a bum, well, if he's a bum, if he's a hype job, it took Canelo 11 rounds to get rid of him. So, I'm not really focused on that. But, I hear a lot of comments and people say a lot of things. I see a lot of things that people put saying. It's like, it's just ignorance, man. Canelo won the fight, hands down. That is pretty much the most important part for either fighter is that they, get the clear win. Caleb Plant, there's nothing. The only thing I feel like Caleb Plant could have really done different, and it's not so much tactically, but condition-wise. Like I said, Canelo, the way Canelo fights, man, he paces himself. Canelo's very patient. Canelo does things that people may look and sit back and not understand that it's effective. Look what he was doing. Left hook to the body, left hook to the head, straight right. He was doing that all night long. And even when it wasn't landing, trust me, that first one to the body was landing. And them shots start to add up. And believe me, as Caleb Plant is getting fatigued and Canelo's pacing himself and fighting his fight, it's like chopping a tree down. You keep chopping, you keep chopping, you keep chopping. Eventually, that tree is going to fall. And that's what we saw happen. Caleb was jabbing. He was moving. He was doing what he had to do, but it wasn't enough. So I'd rather see a guy go in the ring, give it his all. He lose. If he wins, he wins. Than to just not see the fights happening and people just keep talking about who's going to beat who and, oh, it wasn't necessary for this fight, which is, like I said, just asinine comments. So either way, it was a good fight. Hey, man, Canelo is undisputed champion at 168. He did what he had to do. We know Benavidez has a fight coming up. Should he win his fight? Do we get that fight? Hopefully. But that's what it's about. It's about getting in the ring and fighting. Somebody has to win. Somebody has to lose. Simple. All the back and forth. People claiming this guy don't want to fight, that guy don't want to fight, and it's just like a lot of unnecessary, just drama. I'm about the fights. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I'm about the fights. I'm not about the drama. I'm not about the antics. I don't care about all the he said, she said. At the end of the fight, they embraced. Canelo apologized to Caleb for the things he said about his mom and wished him nothing but the best. And a lot of times people can say or do certain things, and it just may not be forgivable to the person they say it to, and that could happen. But I feel like watching, when that happened, it was like, okay, just go back to boxing. Keep it boxing. I just feel like fighters need to do that. I think, to be honest with you, if you watch, Caleb was getting under Canelo's skin. He wasn't even doing anything. I believe his confidence, Caleb's confidence, his poise, I believe it bothered, Canelo's ego. Canelo, during the interview, one of the interviews he was doing, he was saying he was always, ever since he can remember, he's been a troublemaker. Himself, he's talking about. He's always been a troublemaker. And so, he's like laughing and bragging about it. So he was saying that, and it's like, yeah, Canelo, pretty much was like showing anger towards Caleb. Caleb hadn't did anything to him, but it was one of those things, where I feel like he took it there because he felt like he needed to. He wanted to be serious and he wanted to be ready. He wanted to have some anger to where he wanted to go in there and really put it on Caleb, And a lot of times with the fans, because the fans think that the fighter they like is invincible. A lot of times the fans overlook the fact that the same fighters you're calling trash, the fighter you cheering for understands, no, this guy's not trash. This guy can fight. Caleb can fight. And like I said, if he was a powder puff bum fighter, well, I mean, that wouldn't say too much about Canelo because it took him 11 rounds to get him out of there. Okay? We know, truthfully, Caleb's no bum. Canelo's no bum. They were two solid fighters. Canelo is just on a different level. Simple. He held his own, like I said. But it's strategic, man. Don't think what Canelo is doing is not strategic. Don't think he's not planning out what he's doing as he's going. And with his experience, like I said, when he can take advantage of things that other fighters didn't, for the less experienced fighter, you're learning on the job to where you're in situations that you've never been in. Either you're going to pass the test or you're going to fail it. But if you can learn from it, that's always going to be a help. But again, once Caleb started slowing down, that's when Canelo started coming on more. And don't get it twisted. Caleb took some big shots in that fight. He was taking some big shots. And actually, some of the shots he was taking, I felt like, all right, don't lose your poise. You better stay focused. And, pretty much it was a good scrap, though. This is not even about what he should have did with Canelo. No, they did what they did. The outcome is the outcome. It was a good fight. Pause. Like I said, it was a good fight. And Canelo won. So, of course, as soon as you win, everybody want to know who's next, and whoever is next, whether it's either one of the. Well, I don't even consider Jamel because I don't see him coming up, and I don't see Canelo going down. So, unless Jamal is going to go up, I don't see him fighting Canelo anytime soon. Canelo just got this title, got these titles. And Canelo, well, he's just unified, put it that way. So I'm pretty sure, well, I would think it would make more sense that he wanted to defend his titles at 168, not just win them, let them go, just bounce up and down in different divisions. And I mean, at some point that just gets senseless. Like how many times you're gonna drop the titles, go down, fight, and try to unify 160, drop the titles at 160, go back up to 68. So at some point it just becomes the challengers. So, when you are that guy that has something everybody wants, they're either going to come to you or the fight's not going to happen most of the time. So we don't know what's going to happen. Jamal is fighting at 160, not 168. Benavidez is there. And I feel like if for whatever reason, Canelo decides to vacate titles or to go to a different division, I feel like he should fight Benavidez before he does any of that. But I think he got some challenges at 168 that, listen, at some point, you're going to be in one particular division where I would think a guy want to be where the best challengers are. They're trying to go where the most money is, but Canelo being a cash cow, the money's going to go wherever Canelo goes. So, but yeah, I think it was a good fight, man. And again, salute Canelo, salute Caleb, because they put a good fight on, and the better man won. It's as simple as that, y'all. We could sit here and say Caleb should have did this, he should have been doing this, and what he, like I said, it's easier said than done when you're in the ring. And then you realize, like, this person is sharp enough to understand what I'm doing. But again, one thing a lot of people seem to forget about Canelo, because they always talking this shit about when he lost to Floyd, he didn't have that much experience. You guys realize Canelo turned pro at 15 years old? Y'all realize at 15 he turned pro. So let's be real, okay? Canelo's been doing this for a while. So he can fight. He's been in there with so many different styles. And, Caleb, this was his 21st fight. So 22nd rather. So let's not, pretend and act like Canelo's some baby still growing into the game. No, Canelo is a seasoned veteran, man. He's been pro since he was 15, which means he was fighting far before he was 15. Okay? So bottom line, they always try to make it sound like Canelo's some baby in this shit. Like he's just blooming, just blossoming. No, Canelo's been around for a while. And the thing about what he's doing in terms of his legacy, unifying divisions and going up in weight, unifying, Canelo at his age, right? Because one thing you never know is how long somebody's body's going to hold up. You could look super one fight and the very next fight look terrible. Like, it happens. But what he's doing as far as his legacy, he's active. He's winning titles. Okay? You got to separate the fan talk. When you're fighting champions and you're beating them, just because people are saying, he ain't shit. Well, he's fighting champions. Now, in terms of who you want to see him fight, and can't fight everybody at the same time. But I think all these fighters need to start getting there and fighting each other. And not trying to get soft touches and then get lucky and get the cash cow fight. Because when you keep talking about, I'm the best fighter in the world, I want to show I'm the best fighter in the world, I want to show I'm the best, then you got to start fighting the best fighters in the world. And that's for any division. And what I saw Canelo do, people can talk what they want, but Caleb is no pushover. So that's just more credit to Canelo for doing what he did. And, like I said, man, it's times when, look, we call people on their bullshit when they pull some bullshit. Okay, and then people take that as hate because like I always say, do you tell your loved ones, do you agree with everything that they do? When they do something that inside is wrong, do you sit there and laugh with them like it's okay, but keep it inside? Or do you tell them, nah, I don't agree with what you're doing. I don't like that. Because pretty much this is how people are on their fans. No matter what the fighter they like do, they can't do or say anything wrong. And just like, folks, a small example, you only apologize when you know that you're wrong, okay? Or unless you're scared, and then a person apologizes to keep peace because they're scared. Or they realize, you know what, I was definitely wrong. So he wouldn't have apologized to Caleb if he didn't feel he was wrong, okay? Now, people could say, he just did that just to try to look good to the crowd because he know he disrespected him, whatever, okay? However, okay, bottom line is, nobody has ever... Well, let me speak for myself, because I've never doubted Canelo's ability and skills in the ring. You've heard me in videos say Canelo got all the ability in the world that he needs to win fights. But some of the people that he's fought and getting the favoritism from Mauricio and, handpicked as, the franchise, all this type of shit, because you don't fight for the franchise championship. There's no tournament. You just awarded it, right? Stuff like that. People still go, oh man, you hating on Canelo like I really care. But it's like, no, nobody's hating on Canelo. We're just speaking and showing, we're calling it how we see it. Canelo can fight. We all know he can fight. My whole thing with boxing in general, it's not just a particular fighting thing, is when one guy is strategically making history and the other fighters are not catching on to what's happening, I would much rather see you go in there and fight a guy, even though everybody think you're gonna beat him, and this guy's a champion, than to just see guys sitting up on social media with their fucking belt on their shoulders, sitting there acting arrogant, eating and shit, and talking about how nobody can beat them and they're this and they're that. And because at the end of the day, only a fool will continue to support fighters that are pretty much just sitting back arrogantly like, hey, I already made some millions. And you know what? I fight who I want when I want. And you're going to pay for it anyway. So, that's pretty much what I see with a lot of these fighters. And we can get into detail about certain things that we hear and all of this, but understand, until these guys get in the ring and fight, it's just talk. Never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people. I'll catch y'all on the next video.